Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Dr. Young here for another Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer podcast, leadership podcast that interviews people that are out there being the thermostat. So I'm super excited to have with us Dr. Joseph Williams III. I have followed this powerful, strong, African-American male educator for years on LinkedIn and just was in the fan crowd. So I'm excited to be one-on-one, face-to-face with Dr. Williams. So I'm going to step back. And Dr. Williams, would you please introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them who you are, what you do, and a little bit of background information.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Young. I really truly appreciate this opportunity to be on your show. Yeah, I can just tell the audience a little bit about me. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I'm the second oldest of six siblings, and I was born in the '60s, so I'm a lot older than I probably look. But yeah, I've been on this earth over 50 years, and I've been an educator for almost 30 years. I started in education in 1994, and it's been really a great journey. It was not my plan to become an educator, but there's an old saying, if you want to make God smile, tell him your plans because he might have different plans
Yes,
for you.
sir.
And so, yeah, I was on my way to being a lawyer. I went through law school. I was a pre-law major. I was accepted into 7 different law schools and really thought I was on my way to law school. But my last year in college, I had the opportunity to work as a sub a lot because I only had one class each semester to take to graduate. And so I found myself literally subbing every day and realizing that I was really, really good at it. Like nobody ever taught me how to manage a classroom, right? So
Right.
I just knew how to deal with young people. I knew how to connect with young people. And more importantly, I loved working with young people. And it really started being a situation of like, man, do I really want to go into law? Because I'm really loving what I'm doing and I'm getting paid to do it. And obviously, if I become an actual teacher, I'll be getting paid even more. Although, let's be clear, back in 1993, 94, they wasn't paying teachers a lot. So it definitely wasn't for the money. But yeah, I just felt like I was a fish in water. I felt like this is what I was put on this earth to do. But I still had that law school dream. So what I did was I deferred admission into law school for 1 year, thinking I was tired of being the poor broke college student anyway. And so I was like, you know what, I'll just go to, the education route and teach for a year, save up some money, and then I'll have a nice little cushion while I go to law school for 3 years. But that was back in 1994, Dr. Young, and here we are almost 29 years later, and I'm still in this wonderful, great profession and
Love it.
super glad to be an educator because I truthfully believe that the K-12 profession is the profession that makes all other professions possible. And I also believe that we're in the greatest profession in the world. So I'm super grateful to be a K-12 educator.
And I'm just going to co-sign with amen. That's all. I'm going to co-sign with amen. So talk just like, what levels of education have you done? Have you been mostly middle school, high school, elementary? Like, talk to us in 29 years of experience. What has
Yeah.
that experience looked like?
Yeah, it's been at every level. Like I would say that the majority of my career has been at the secondary level.
Okay.
I started off as a high school teacher, worked in special education, also worked as a social studies teacher because of my, poli sci background and pre-law background. And I also was a coach. I was a football coach, basketball coach. Had an opportunity to really impact students' lives through that as well. And so, yeah, I worked in secondary ed, became an administrator in secondary ed in 2005. So from 94 to 2005, I was a teacher and a coach. But then in 2005, I knew it was time for me to have a greater impact on an entire school as opposed to my classroom. And so that's what I did. And I was a high school principal, second high school principal at a brand new school back then called Dutchtown High School right outside of Atlanta. And yeah, it was really, really good. And I was actually, truthfully, only an AP, an assistant principal for 3 years before I became a principal. And Yeah, I've been a principal ever since. And so what happened was in 2013, I was working in St. Louis as a high school principal, and my wife was pregnant with our second child. And my superintendent, shout out to uh, my superintendent in St. Louis, and he actually came to me, Dr. Adams, and he said, "Hey, Dr. Williams, your wife is pregnant. You have at the time, a 3-year-old son, and we have a need for you at an elementary school." And he told me, he said, think about it, pray about it, and let me know tomorrow. So that was basically his way of saying, you go do this, right?
This is where
And
you
so,
going. Yeah.
and so I was really, really, I don't know. I just felt really conflicted about that because all of my experience to that point had been at the high school level. But I am so grateful. Shout out to Dr. Kelvin Adams for doing that because it really changed my life. Because what it did was it allowed me to see why Jamal and Jamila and all the students at my high school level were coming into the high school and in some cases were only reading on a third grade level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a big believer. If we don't get it right on that foundational elementary level,
Yes, sir.
we're just
Yes,
fighting a
sir.
losing battle. Like, I mean, and yeah, we could still have pockets of excellence, but I'm thoroughly convinced at this point, and I'm saying this to someone that's currently a high school principal now in 2023, almost 2023. I feel like elementary teachers and principals should be paid more than anybody
Hmm.
because truthfully, if you think about it, if they don't get it right, it's not right. So now you
Yes,
struggling
sir.
in middle school.
Yep.
Now you got a kid struggling in high school.
Yes,
You
sir.
have limited their options for after high school if they didn't get that foundational piece right. And so for me, working in elementary education from 2013 to 2019, it just really changed everything I thought about how important it is to get it right at the elementary level. I
Yes,
compare it to
sir.
building a house.
Yep.
You can have the most beautiful walls and the greatest roof, but if that foundation not right, not gonna
Yes.
last, bro.
Yep.
Not gonna last.
All right, man. So I didn't know you had that connection to this area. So I'm right across the muddy Mississippi here in O'Fallon, Illinois, from St.
Okay,
Louis.
there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So been in this area all my life. Was born and raised in Centralia, Illinois, and that's where I started my career. But I've been middle school my entire career except 1 year. My first year as a principal, I was the
Okay.
elementary principal for first through third grade, which opened up my eyes. You talking about procedures, you talking about structures and all that. Like I think every principal should spend a stint in an elementary building for at least a year because, like you said, it lets you understand that full service, right? Like that full
Yeah,
wraparound of what that kid's needs or what that kid, those gaps that kid is missing, makes you
sure.
understand what they're missing a little bit better, man. So thank you so much for sharing that background so we can understand why the impact that I have you here on Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer, because you are setting the thermostat, man. So when I say be the thermostat and not the thermometer, what does that mean to you?
Well, when I think about a thermostat, like, obviously you could, if the thermostat is set at 70, that's your level. Like you basically have kind of just said, hey, this is where I'm going to be. And I don't care, you could try to raise it to 80, it's still going to go back, it's going to regress to the mean, which is 70. Or if you bring it down to 60, it's still going to ultimately work its way back up to 70. And I'm a big believer in just not placing limits on anything that you want to do with your life. I'm a big believer that education gives you options, and I don't want students to feel like there's some sort of ceiling, especially when you talk about Black and brown students. And so, I mean, I sit here before you having this conversation with you. Like I said, the second oldest of 6 kids. My mom had me at 18, and I'm not even her oldest child. And
Mm-hmm.
so that gives you an idea of, what that early upbringing was for not only me but also my 5 siblings. And it wasn't easy, but the one thing my mom used to always tell us is that If you don't want to live like this and you want an opportunity at a great life, you got to get a quality education. And so to me, that's super important that, young people know that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. And the only person truly that's putting limits on them is themselves. And
Yes.
so to me, it's super important to really get that message out to young people and really have a teacher and a leader in every school that is giving that message to the kids, because if we don't, kids are going to rise and fall to the level of the expectations of the adults in the building, right? And so if we have low expectations, why are we shocked that Jamal only goes to that level?
Right.
He's only going to go to the level of the expectations that we have for him. But if we say, hey, Jamal can do, have, and become anything he wants, and there's greatness within Jamal,
Yes.
and we're going to bring that out of Jamal, then I think, Jamal can do, have, and become anything he wants to become. And I'm living proof of that with 5 degrees, a doctorate, an MBA, a master's, a bachelor's, and an associate. So if I can do it, being born to an 18-year-old mother in Kansas City, Missouri in 1968, then anybody can do it.
Hey, so let's talk about this. So you're talking about not setting on growth, not setting limits to yourself, and making sure that a culture is set. The thermostat is set where you have high expectations for your students so they can have high expectations for themselves. Because I strongly believe, like you said, that students will meet the expectation that you set for them. So if you have it low, they will set there. And there are students, individual students, who will rise above it because they understand what that means. But majority of your class will set their thermostat to where you put it. And when you look at your thermometer in your classroom and you read it, it's going to be exactly what you set. You're going to get what you expect, right? You're going to get there. So for you personally, right? Let's talk about this. You got these degrees, you got those, you're interviewing other educators and motivating them. What is one way that I personally believe it's important to continue to grow? To set your thermostat, you got to continue to grow with it, right? Like Ameren, Illinois, the power company for Illinois, just had this free thing giving everybody a Nest thermostat. So you can get a free digital thermostat. And I'm like, why not? Right? Like, my wife's like, oh, we don't need to know. Why not? They're giving it to me free. They're telling me to raise let me learn, right? This be a learning environment, continues to learn, all this other good stuff. And they're doing it for free. So they're raising everybody's home. Like, if you can do it, you can get there. But personally, for you personally, how do you continue to set your thermostat to continue to grow personally?
Oh, that's a great question. So first of all, I feel like every educator should be what I consider a lifelong learner.
Yes, sir.
And that's me. Like I feel like, every day above ground, first of all, is a good day because I'm above ground and not below ground. But second of all, I feel like, I have this motto and I share it with my kids, and we call it, let's go, let's get it. So if we woke up and we're living and breathing, let's go, let's get it. Let's go, let's get it. Right. And so we have that mindset. I have that mindset. And I want to make sure that when I lay my head down at the end of that day, that I know more when I lay my head down than when I woke up that morning, right? And so that's just really the lens that I really look at that through. And so for me, it's about growing in every area, and so I have this saying that when you see me successful in one area, please know I'm probably struggling in another area. Right?
Yes, sir.
So for me, it's like, yes, I might be doing well and I might be trying to grow in one area, but I got to make sure I'm not slipping in the other areas that I feel like I'm okay in. Right.
Yes.
And so to me, that's always a balance, and it's always a struggle almost to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to continue to grow, learn, and improve. And so, there were so many times in my career that if I was just basing it off an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that says I'm educated, that I could have just said I'm good.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
I got
sir.
my associates, I'm good. I got my bachelor's, I'm good. I got my master's, I'm good. Oh, I got my MBA, I'm good. I'm really good. Oh, I got my doctorate, I'm really, really good. Right. No, those are pieces of paper. And, in our society, they're super important. In our profession, they're super important. But there's so many things. You brought up the fact that I have my own show as well. There were so many skills, and I'll say skills that are far outside the realm of K-12 education that I had to learn in order to, be an effective, podcast or video show host, what have you, right? Like even as we're having this show, I'm super upset with the lighting on
Yeah,
me
right. I
because,
understand.
you know what I'm saying? Because I'm in an Airbnb right now, we're on winter break now. And, if I was in my studio, it wouldn't be like this, right?
Yep.
And so for me, it's like I had to learn those skills. I had to learn about proper lighting. I had to learn about video editing. I had to learn about audio, and how that works and making sure that I'm able to, produce a very good product. And so in those areas, I have grown so much. I've actually had people reach out to me, "Hey Doc, how can you show me how to do that kind of
Yes,
stuff?"
sir.
Right. And so for me, I'm very grateful for that, but I'm also still growing. Like I even think about, like I said earlier, I did not get into this profession to make money, but I also know that, in order to take care of my family, I have to make money. Like, I mean, it goes hand in hand. And I will tell you, when I got into this profession, I was making 17,000 dollars a year, and that's as a
Yeah.
teacher. Okay. So clearly it was not about the money back in
Absolutely.
1993, 1994. But, now I'm, a high school principal and I'm making almost $200,000 a year here in Seattle. So I'm very grateful for that. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, even when I look at it from a financial standpoint, I still don't place limits on myself.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And so having that mindset, okay, really helps me when I'm talking to young people too, right? Because we're public servants. So truthfully, our salaries are public
Public
knowledge.
knowledge.
Like
Yes.
it's not like it's a secret, right?
Yep.
And so I tell young people all the time, if Dr. Joseph Williams III can do it, then you can do it too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so it starts with us not placing limits on ourselves and really being committed to growing, learning, and improving. And if we have that mindset, then it's easy to pass it on to our students and our staff if we're
That's
leaders in a
awesome.
building. And so, and another area I just want to briefly talk about is like the area of finances. So I'm super grateful to my mom because she actually really impressed upon me and my 5 siblings the importance of a quality education. And we got that, right? And most of us are doing super well. As a matter of fact, 4 out of the 6 of us are educators. I have a younger brother that's a principal.
Nice.
Yeah, both of my sisters are teachers in the Houston area, Houston, Texas. So yeah, I mean, we definitely believe what my mom was telling us, and we have definitely done well in our lives. But the one area that I think, and I almost call it the last frontier as it relates to Black and Brown people, is the area of finances.
Yes, sir.
And so for me, I'm actually getting ready to get on a real crusade as it relates to finances because, I woke up almost 5 years ago at 50 and really didn't have any money saved. And that bothered me. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 50, I'm 50 years old today on August 8th. Um, I turned 50 years old, August 8th, 2018. And I was like, I don't have any meaningful money to show for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably not my age, but when you're 50, Social Security can send you like this list from the time you started working until the present day of how much money you've earned since you started working.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Young, I got that. I got that in the mail from Social Security, and I had made over $1 million in my lifetime.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I telling you that? I didn't even have 10% to show for that.
Yeah.
10% of that million to show that I'd saved at least 10%. So this is what I'll say to your audience. All of you are millionaires. You just didn't get it in one lump sum,
Yes, sir.
right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The real question is, what are you saving? Not what are you earning? What did you save this month? And that's a paradigm shift, Dr. Young. It
Yep.
really, I get
It
it.
is. It
Paradigm
is.
shift, right? Like we focus on the top number, which is, look, I don't even know how America got away with this. Okay. How can you tell somebody you make $100,000 a year, but the actual amount that hits your account is 70,000?
Right. Right.
Who sold us on that?
Right. Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
do.
and again, I don't want to get on a crusade about it. We can talk about it in another show, but I will tell you 100%, I'm super stoked about really impressing upon my fellow K-12 educators the importance of saving their money.
Yep.
Because you know and I know that we can go into Walmart right now, we can go into, any store, whatever, and see people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s still having to work because they did not do right by their money during their prime earning years. But what I will tell you is that since my 50th birthday, I've saved over 130K.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just since my 50th birthday.
Right, right, right.
So what would that have been like if I had started at 30? Right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
so I'm on a crusade because I know these are my prime earning years between now and my 65th birthday. Brother, we can have another conversation in 10 years. I promise you I'm going to come on here and tell you I got $1 million in the bank.
Let's do
Promise
it.
you that, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, you get me all excited over here. I love it. So you talked about this, which leads me to our next question, our next discussion topic, because I feel like that's a pitfall, right? Like even me, right? So I'm 40. So, right.
Okay.
So just turned 40 this past April. And that same conversation, right? We had a little savings, and my wife and I like to call her my Michelle, right? Right. So great. She's a nurse practitioner. We got 2 little boys, 6 and 4, absolutely loving life, this and the other. And we're fortunate enough to she went part-time, right? To be able to be a more active mother and and just the shift that had in our home is invaluable. Yeah. And you didn't realize that because you go, and you earn. But I'm like, we're still living a quality life. We're still doing all this other, still able to put some things back. But what we get on the other side, far as a family, far as investment, far as all that good stuff, is amazing. So one thing that I tell other leaders is stop. Your school is not going to burn down if you don't answer that text message at 8:00 at night. Your school is not going to burn down if you don't respond to emails until the next morning. Your school is going to be okay is if your school's on vacation and you don't do work because you're on vacation and you actually take a vacation with your family and be present with your family. It's going to be okay. One pitfall, I think, as a leader that we've got to is with this 24/7 access, we're not an emergency room.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't have to have our life. Like being a principal is what we do, and it's not necessarily who we are 24/7, because we also are a father, a brother, a friend, a preacher, a teacher, a tennis player, right? Like we are all these other things. But when we divide our pie up, we take so much of that time for what we do as a leader out of the other areas. And we got to remember that to be successful in that and what we do, we also have to continue to invest in other things, because we continue to grow when we are still with our family and our friends and we're present and all that. That's why we get burnout. That's why we get high turnover. That's why because there's not that balance into what we do. So I say that to say is, outside of us need to have a financial conversation, because I think I need to learn some more from you about this, because I'm back on that end, because I look at the same thing and I look at my money, and my money look a little funny when I look at my savings account. But and it's okay, because I'm like, oh, this and the other. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But what's another pitfall that you would want other leaders to try to avoid?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer that your health is your wealth. And so, like I said, I'm 54, my next birthday in 2023, I'll be 55 years of age. And I feel good, and they say black don't crack. So,
right.
It is what it is. But, I definitely feel like it's super important that you make sure you're taking care of yourself, right? Like you said, being a principal, a school leader, what have you, teacher, it's what you do. It's not who you are necessarily. And so, like when I look at this cup, right? This cup right now is a styrofoam cup. If you knew what was in it, it's basically half full, right? I'm a big believer that you have to pour into yourself before you can pour into others, right? And so if I come into my building as the school leader, I'm a high school principal, over 1,200 students, over 100 staff, right? If I come in and I'm on empty, then it's going to be super hard for me to pour into somebody else if my cup's on empty, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm a big believer in morning routines.
Okay.
This is why I'm focusing on this piece, because if you think about a 24-hour day, we're only up, of those 24 hours, you only have about 12 to 14 waking hours of that 24 hours, right? And most of those are during the early morning until around 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about it from that standpoint, you have to have some sort of, matter of fact, I won't even call it a routine. You have to have a ritual, right? You have to have a morning ritual that
Morning
says,
ritual.
this is what I do to make sure when I go into my building that I'm able to pour in to other people, whether it be my staff, whether it be my students, whether it be, you know, my communications with the school community. It's super important for me to make sure I take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a morning ritual as it relates to my workout. Because here's the thing, people think they have to go to a gym. They don't have to go to a gym, right? I have what I call a 50-50-50 that I do 50 jumping jacks, 50 squats, 50 push-ups every day.
Mm-hmm.
At my age, that's more than enough. We good. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you.
Right? But it's a ritual. It's like do
it
it
is.
every day.
It is.
Be consistent with it, right? Because there's no excuse. You don't have to go out the door. You don't have to deal with the elements.
Right.
Do it right there in your bedroom, right there in your garage, whatever
Right.
basement, and it's done, right? Then I have a ritual as it relates. Now that's just my physical, this my earth suit, right?
Right.
But then we are spirit beings. These are flesh suits for us, Dr.
Absolutely.
Young, right?
Absolutely.
So how am I feeding my spirit?
Mm-hmm.
So we have these positive affirmations that we say as a family. You know, thank you, God, for waking me up. Thank you, God, for my health and strength. You know, I declare that, you know, the family Williams is the head and not the tail. We're above and never beneath. We're blessed coming and going. We're blessed from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. We are blessed coming and going. And whatever we set our mind to do, we will prosper.
In Jesus' name.
Right? So we feed our spirit every day. That's not just me saying it. That's my 9-year-old daughter saying it. That's my 12-year-old son saying it. That's my wife saying it. Right? So we feed our spirit to make sure that when, like I said, going to that building, whatever we're doing, we're on full. We're not on E. Right? And so I'm a big believer to your listeners out there and your viewers that they have to take care of themselves. Self-care is a real thing. You can't be successful long-term if you're not taking care of you. Yes. You have to take care of you so you can take care of others.
Yes. Man, such a good, man, all these nuggets. Like, I can't wait to go back and listen to this and take my own personal notes. I like to actively listen during the time, but I go back and I take those notes, and so this is good stuff. So, all right, so last thing. So I'm a John Maxwell leadership coach. I truly believe in leadership. I truly believe in leadership growth and development, and also of growing me and growing others, right? So when I help others grow, I also grow. So in John Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, he quotes Dr. David McClellan of Harvard that the people with you you habitually associate with are called your reference group. And these people determine up to as much as 95% of your success or your failure in life. So I want you to help other people grow their reference group. So I want to know, who are 5 people that other people should connect with or follow on social media or throughout life to help them grow their reference group to grow higher and not lower.
Oh, that's powerful, man. And I will say we are living in the best time in the history of the world, right? So the reality is, Dr. Young, with you living on O'Fallon, Illinois, and me living in Seattle, Washington, that if we didn't have this gift, and I do mean gift, of technology and social media and the internet, we would not have ever connected in life, right? So when you start talking about, I call them virtual mentors, right? That's super important. And so when I think about, again, what I'm on and what I'm really trying to get across to people today is this whole idea of self-care, as well as, you know, taking care of your money, right? And so for me, there's several. First, I'll mention this site that I follow. It's called Our Rich Journey. Okay. And they have a very huge YouTube following. And they really just talk about their journey to financial freedom. And it's super important for that. And they also talk about even the possibility once you do reach financial freedom of potentially even moving to another country, which I thought was really, really cool because I have had the experience of working abroad and I know how great that experience was. So I follow them. There's another couple out of Atlanta that I follow. They're called Rich and Regular. That's the name of their podcast or YouTube channel. Another couple that I follow called His and Her Money.
Okay.
You notice the theme.
Right. Right.
So that's three. Who else? There was a guy, he calls himself Millionaire Teacher or Millionaire Educator, and he's actually out of Georgia. He's the one that really, really helped me realize that it wasn't too late. And this is something that I do want to share because I know there's probably people that are, your age and older that are saying, man, I'm 40 or I'm 50 and I haven't done anything and it's too late. No, it's not too late. Right. And so this guy, God, what is his name? His name is Jerry Bourne, with a G, Gerry Bourne. He's an educator outside of Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Him and his wife are both educators. They've saved over $1 million, and they don't together. They don't even make what I make. Okay, from an income standpoint, and in 10 years they saved over $1 million. So this is very, very possible, but it's just really educating yourself. And so for me, following these people that I just shared with you, it's given me an opportunity to change, to have a mindset shift.
Yes, sir.
I call it a paradigm shift, but it's a mindset shift, right? Because we all have been taught, good and bad, about money, right? Even if it's not, we don't think it's a direct, instruction about money. How your mother and father handled money in a lot of ways is the blueprint that we have on how we handle our own money, right?
Sir.
And that can be good. Sometimes that can be bad, right? So if you sitting there listening to your mama say, hey, hey, may I speak to Miss Smith? Oh, Miss Smith is not here. Or you have the wrong number, right? Like that's teaching young people to evade their obligations, right?
Yeah.
To lie in some cases. But also, it also, in my opinion, feeds into this mindset of lack, right? And so the one thing that I want everyone to know and believe is that the earth is abundant, right? Mm-hmm. If there's anybody out there in our profession, and I'll just keep it to our profession, that is earning $150,000 a year, you can earn it too, right?
Yeah.
I'll say it like this. I could say, oh, they don't pay educators $200,000 a year. But if I find 10 educators that are making $200,000 a year, then what I just said is wrong, right?
Right.
What I should be saying is, they're not paying you, Joseph, $200,000 a year. They paying somebody. They paying some educators. It's just not you.
Not
right?
you. That's right.
And so for me, that's where this whole issue of not limiting yourself, right?
Okay. Yep.
So if I'm a principal and I'm making $180,000, $190,000 a year, and I want to be a superintendent one day, then I know already that it's possible to make $300,000 a year. Because what do I know? I know their superintendent's making $300,000.
Making right.
Right. And so it's all about not placing limits on yourself. But I've been doing this long enough that I remember a time when superintendents barely made six figures.
Right.
So if they're paying superintendents in some cases $300,000, $350,000 a year, what are they going to be paying them in 10 years?
Yeah.
If they're paying principals $150,000 a year now in 2022, what are they going to be paying them in 2032 when you're 50? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. We need to get in the mindset of not setting limits on ourselves.
Gosh, yes.
You know what I mean? And just getting up with that mindset that I'm going to be on my grind. I'm going to be on my hustle. I'm going to do what I need to do. And every night when my head hits that pillow, I am going to be better than when I woke up. So it's about those 1% improvements, not the 10 or 20 or 30% improvements. Just get a little better every single day, right?
Yes.
And if you can do that, you will look up, in your case, Dr. Young, and at 50, and you will be making 300,000 a year, right?
Yes,
There you
sir.
go.
Yes, sir. Man, I absolutely love it. Hey, let's tell the people, how can they connect with you across all of the platforms that you have?
Yeah, so I can definitely be reached at Dr. Joseph Williams III, no spaces. And the third is I at gmail.com. And also, like you said, I do have a show. So if there's any educators that are watching me right now and you have a story to tell and you want to be a guest on the show, we definitely gonna have Dr. Young on the show. I can tell
Yes,
you that
sir. Let's do
100%.
it.
Yeah. And so, we would definitely love to hear your story because everybody has a story, right? You take that word history, you split it in half, it's his story. Everybody has a story, right? And your story can be someone else's survival guide,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So your story needs to be heard. So never downplay your story because there could be just one little thing in your story that is someone else's survival guide, right? And so super important. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just hit me up, Dr. Joseph Williams III, and I'll have you on the show. I would love to have you on the show. Also, I used to have a website. I really don't get down with it like that anymore, but I am coming out with a website, and it's called the Smart K-12
Okay.
Investor.com.
Yes.
And it's really going to be geared toward K-12 educators. And you'll see a lot more about that even in my show, because I'm really, really, like I said, I had an epiphany moment when I turned 50 and when I got that Social Security statement. Man, I was just stunned. I started working at 14 years of age because they start keeping records of that the minute you start having Social Security
Yes,
taken
sir.
out of your
Yep.
check. And so I had my first job at High Neighbor in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And they've been taking Social Security out ever since, but I've made well over $1 million. And so I also found out that, while they might send it automatically once you hit 50, even if you're your age, Dr. Young, like you can reach out to Social Security and they can send you a statement and it shows you exactly what you earned since you started working. And that would be the starting point. If I was going to leave anything with your listeners and viewers, that would be the starting point as it relates to your money. Like,
Yes.
get that statement and just have a come to Jesus moment about where you are and just be real. You don't want to be an ostrich in this situation, having
Yep.
your head in the sand. Like, really just see it. It is what it is and start from there,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And be like, okay, I'm going to. And so for me, I've had a paradigm shift in terms of how I look at my paycheck. So I get my paycheck. The first thing I ask myself is, how much of this check am I going to save?
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, what I earn means nothing if I spend it all.
That's right.
Right.
Hey,
So
and here's a crazy thing. This is how the good Lord works in my life. He puts people in your life in the meantime when you need them. I've been watching you for years. This past year, the wife and I had decided like we were budgeting, but the budget was to track our expenses for the year to truly budget for next year. And I know myself. I grew up where, when income tax came, it was like it was Christmas, right? Like
yeah.
right? Like, so that mindset, right? Like an understanding that where she's more of a saver, I'm more of like, okay, let's save some, but like, here's the things I want and not necessarily need, and I work hard to get what I need, and not understanding that need needs to be saving as well. So like, this is like epiphany. So I'm so glad, because next week we're sitting down to set our goals for 2023, right? And we do, and it is so it has been powerful. It's been hard, arduous conversations, but it's been so good and healthy for us, one, as a marriage.
Yeah.
Because when you look statistically, marriage is in, and the number one thing is money, right? Like that, this is where it is. And it was hard to have that conversation, but now that we're engaged in it, right, we can truly be honest about our spending, where we go, have those conversations, and it's good, right? So I truly appreciate that. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I look forward to continuing to grow and learn from you, man. I'm so glad for you to be on this podcast, helping people set their thermostat and not being the thermometer and really valuing themselves and setting their future thermostat, right? Like as we go forward with that, man. So, hey, if anyone is in need of any events, you look for keynote speakers, workshops, getting people smart with money, hey, reach out to Dr. Joseph Williams III there. If you need help, thermostat, motivation, all the good stuff, I'm also booking events as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. Mentorship, leadership, or just asking questions in the end time between time. Thank you so very much, Dr. Joseph Williams III, for being on podcast today. We appreciate you. Hey, like, subscribe, follow Dr. Joseph Williams III.